Every summer school holidays, Port Stephens is inundated by visitors, and this year is certainly no exception. Holidaymakers have flocked to the blue water wonderland, needing just a few essential ingredients, sun and sand. Finding accommodation, though, is a hard task, with operators heavily booked out weeks ahead.
Summer bookings have been absolutely swamped. At this stage, there's only a few rooms vacant in the entire area. That's in all types of accommodation, from backpackers through to the 4-star resorts to B&Bs. They're all nearly full at this stage.
Cruises are also proving extremely popular, especially with international tourists. Meanwhile, in Newcastle, anything near the beach is also in demand. This year, Newcastle tourism is reporting a marked increase in niche markets, such as backpackers.
Backpackers in Newcastle are all looking quite strong. This is their busiest time of year. Backpackers are a niche market. It's growing in Newcastle at the moment. We're pushing for more backpackers to come.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
When dairy farming turned sour for Warren Marquette, he dug around in search of a new venture and found it. After just 15 months, Warren and his business partner Keith Pawley can attest to the saying, to breed like rabbits. What started as a hobby with just 40 does and 4 bucks has more than quadrupled in size, and that's not counting the 1,000 odd kittens running around these pens.
We can only get bigger. We haven't got enough cages, we haven't got enough sheds. We can only get bigger.
The Commonwealth Dairy Regional Assistance Program has injected $25,000 into the start-up cost of the business, turning a dream into a thriving reality. The farmers are producing 125 New Zealand rabbits every week, but are hoping to triple their output within years.
The shortage of rabbits is a big problem. But why more people don't go into rabbits, I don't know.
The domestic market is crying out for the alternate white meat, which boasts both low levels of cholesterol and fat. The CSIRO predicts the industry will continue to grow at a rapid rate over the next decade, but it doubts it will ever rival the chicken meat industry. As for entering the export market, these rabbit farmers say they'll continue striving to meet the insatiable domestic gourmet food market. Colleen West, NBN News.
It was only by chance that Talia Ann Denham became the first baby born in the state this year. She was delivered via caesarean section at 12:01 this morning.
We were actually meant to have her earlier on in the night, but because I'd eaten a sandwich earlier in the day, we had to go back to the ward and wait for a few hours to go back down, so it was kind of a bit of a fluke.
Talia is the third baby for parents Elizabeth and David Denham from Gilliston Heights, and the Hunter's second baby, born in 2004, is following in somewhat of a family tradition. Daphne Downey was born in the same hospital and on the same day as her mother Julie.
Yeah, she wasn't due for another 2 days, so yeah, it was a coincidence. And being born here myself, it was, yeah,
we heard stories, Julie's mum, about driving around to the hospital, 30 odd years ago, and the fireworks going off and everything, and I was doing the same thing. It was definitely a coincidence.
Daphne is the second child for Julie and Bruce from Toronto. Lyndall Derrig, NBN News.
Hunter may be sitting at the bottom of the NBL ladder, however their appearance in Adelaide mustered a near sell-out partisan crowd of 6,500 desperate for a hometown win. The 36ers are the Pirates' only successful conquest from 17 matches, but Adelaide's Dusty Reichardt was determined to make Hunter pay dearly for that victory. Early scoring for the Pirates was led by Michael Kingma on his way to 22 points for the match. Hunter's greatest problem was their defence.
There were some definite things we need to correct at halftime, which was the offensive boards we were giving up. And we really held them from the three-point line. They sort of got away from us towards the end and hit some big shots.
Even though Hunter trailed by 6 at halftime, they let Adelaide get away to an 11-point lead for the final quarter. But a giant pirate awoke and Kevin Brooks launched a 17-point raid in the run to full-time, including 5 three-pointers.
I really struggled the first 3 quarters, and then I came out the fourth quarter and hit a couple of shots, got my rhythm going, and then my teammates started to look for me, set screens for me, and just open it up for me. But
it wasn't enough. Adelaide victorious 93-86. The Pirates now hope the renewed confidence in their ability will inspire them to upset Cairns when they encounter the middle-of-the-table Taipans at the Entertainment Centre on Saturday night.
I think most teams are looking at the Pirates nowadays, and we're not easy beats, and we've earned their respect. Now we just want to earn a victory.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Beating off both international and domestic stars to reach the final, Ross was also up against the handicapper. After winning the Latrobe gift on Boxing Day, Ross was forced to start from scratch in the far right lane for the Bernie gift, and he still reeled in the field. Ross, only the second ever to win the 117-year-old event from the back mark, after Dean Capobianco managed it 14 years ago.
I'm more than delighted, mate. I've got nothing left.
His winning Tasmanian double earning him a cool $21,000, and along with his famous stall gift win last April, makes him the quickest pro runner in the country.
Probably been the best Christmas and New Year's Day I've ever had.
It's in the amateur scene he wants to now shine, and with invitations to run in the Australian Grand Prix Series, a push for Olympic selection now begins in earnest. It capped off a successful series for the entire Tony Fairweather-coached racing stable, with Newcastle's Megan Hines, racing in the blue, winning the Open Women's 70-metre final earlier in the day. Like a pack of sharks, the 68-strong fleet circled the waters on Broken Bay before the start of the 23rd such race north to Coffs Harbour. At 83 feet, Maxi Nicorette is the largest of this pack and hardly looked like a boat that's undergone rush repair work over the last few days after it was forced out of the Sydney to Hobart. The Lud Ingval skippered boat has some unfinished business in this ocean race as well, with Wild Oats. The super lightweight racer smashed the race record in beating her much bigger rival for line honours last year, but that time of 18 hours 18 minutes appears safe on this trip. HMAS Yarra signalled the start, but with stiff northeasterly winds, craft didn't exactly shoot out of the blocks. Nicorette setting the early pace as smaller boats jostled for runs. The high-tech Wild Oats got away in good time too, and after showing off its revolutionary canting keel, it quickly began a tacking duel with Nicorette. While more comfortable racing conditions are expected later this evening, the first finisher isn't expected until mid-afternoon tomorrow.
It didn't take long for the fire to take hold, and once it did, the massive flames destroyed everything in their path. It began in the Glenrock State Recreation Area just after midday. Fire officers rushed to the scene and were initially in defensive mode, trying to protect the nearby wastewater treatment works in case the wind suddenly changed direction. As animals took their chances in trees, fire crews stepped up their campaign, and fortunately the weather conditions worked in their favour, enabling crews to gain the upper hand.
The wind change at the moment is assisting us in fighting the fire. The fire is moving slowly and the wind's assisting us to attack and find the fire.
Because of its coastal location, fire officers say the winds can be more unpredictable. However, luckily the afternoon breeze fanned flames in a southwesterly direction down the hill and away from homes.
The fire at the moment is under control and crews are at the moment in offensive mode attacking and find the fire.
The Rural Fire Service was called in to assist the New South Wales brigades mop up the blaze. Crews are still at the scene tonight. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News. These cute canines fled their homes, seeking refuge from the New Year's Eve fireworks. While they're being temporarily looked after at Elmore Vale's RSPCA pound, their future is uncertain, as they must be claimed in the next 7 days, or 14 days if they are microchipped. Cosmo is one of the lucky ones. She was reunited with her owner this afternoon.
She's really good at getting out of the yard, so she dug under the fence to escape, and basically we rang up to find out if she was here, and they told us to come and have a look for her.
She also ran away at the same time last year from her former home in Sydney. Max the German Shepherd Cross was also identified today. He escaped from his home at Lambton. The RSPCA says 40 animals were brought in today from around Newcastle and Lake Macquarie, and on its first day of operation since the New Year break, the shelter has almost reached its capacity. It received more than 100 calls reporting lost dogs. 5 dogs were also run over while trying to escape from the fireworks. The service is urging owners to personally identify their precious pets as soon as possible. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
It was back to work for the Knights today after a 2-week Christmas break. For a pair of kangaroos, this their first appearance in club colours for the new crusade, with Steve Simpson and Danny Badiris back training after the successful Ashes tour of England.
It doesn't take long to freshen up because you're in a routine week in, week out all year, and you have 5 weeks off and you're pretty keen to get back at it.
While it was about speed today, contract negotiations with Andrew Johns have been anything but until now. Off contract at the season's end, talks over his future with the club will hit top gear this week. The signing of Andrew Johns isn't the club's only priority. Among others off contract this season is Ben Kennedy, and the club will begin negotiations with his manager this week as well. but don't expect quick answers to the growing list of questions over their future.
The club would desperately like them both to stay and we'll be working towards that over the next weeks and months.
In terms of football, the World Sevens is the first stop on the way to season kick-off, but neither Johns or Kennedy will play a part in that, nor the two Kangaroos. The coach just happy to see his skipper working his way back from that neck injury.
He goes back to the specialist in the next week or two just to get a final clearance hopefully, and then he can tear him from there after.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. On standby for the past few weeks, Ryan Griffiths had little time to waste after he got the good news overnight from coach Frank Farina, flying out early this morning to join his Olyrood teammates in Perth. While wished all the best, he leaves behind a team now down to its last striker into Salamassi, and just another headache for coach Ian Crook.
Boy, who's going to play up front this week? Apart from me and you, mate.
He can spare a joke, but he can't afford any more losses. Now 8th, and with time running out, the coach feels like each weekend is now a grand final.
I'll be honest with you now, I think probably the only thing that's kept us in it after last week is the other results.
There were some positive signs with both Robbie Middleby and Greg Owens running strongly at today's training, with the latter confident he'll be fit for the trip to Adelaide.
To do a few 100-metre sprints and practically stride out to my full potential, and it's pretty confident with it now.
He hasn't been one in front of goal this season, but while critical of his finishing, Owens is determined not to let it get to him as he attempts to get the radar back on target.
There's a lot of pressure there on winning games, and I think you get in front of the goals, you're trying so hard to score that all you need to do is relax, and sometimes that's the best thing you can do.
Plans for expansion works and the recruitment of 10 new staff have been halted at Lovell's spring manufacturing plant at Carrington.
Well, we're operating at full speed, and as I said, we're looking to hire people. We're just not sure we dare put them on.
Following the New Year's Day fire at the Santos gas plant in South Australia, current flows from the Moomba facility are just 30% of the needs of New South Wales. While Lovell's is a relatively small consumer of gas, it relies on a very large local gas user, One Steel, which supplies 99% of its raw materials.
Well, if One Steel stopped delivering, we would be out of production in about 1 week.
One Steel says its output and the future of its 1,800 staff is uncertain.
The crunch point for us comes next week as more industry comes back online, increase in demand.
And explosives and chemicals manufacturer Orica has reduced the workload of its Kooragang Island fertiliser plant to 80%. While management says things are extremely tight, it is meeting customer demand, and at this stage no staff will be laid off. Meanwhile, AGL has announced it will source additional higher-priced gas from the Bass Strait in an effort to maintain supply to the New South Wales gas market. It's expected to be at least 45 days before operations resume at the Moomba plant. Colleen West, NBN News.
Since 1962, the Intercity Pace has provided a showcase event for rising stars of the track. But today, the club released fields for what will most likely be the last ever feature carnival.
I suppose you could say that there is a distinct air of sadness in the air around the Maitland and the community, but nevertheless we have to get on with the job and be positive.
Mayor Peter Blackmore went further than that. Convinced harness officials have got it wrong, he invited them to attend the meeting to see what they're going to axe.
It certainly would be an opportunity for them to come and see, I guess, what the industry is going to miss out on.
While it's unclear if the state's racing officials will take up the Mayor's invitation to attend the carnival, no one will be here past June 24. Under the strategic plan, that's the final race date set down for Maitland. As for the carnival, a strong local contingent has nominated for the 5 heats that start on Saturday night. But the horse they all have to beat comes from the south.
Some nice horses coming, headed off by Muddy River, trained down at Goulburn by Neil Day, drawn barrier 2 in the first heat, the very first race in the card, certain to give a good sight.
Heats will be completed next Tuesday night, with the final the following Saturday. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Conditions at Glendale today were a far cry from what Josh Ross became accustomed to in Tasmania. Having completed the professional sprinting trifecta, capped off with a win at the Burnie Gift on New Year's night, it's not bad for someone who's only been competing for 2.5 years.
It's a dream come true and hasn't sunk in yet, hasn't hit me yet.
It's been a whirlwind 9 months for the 22-year-old, now known as the fastest man on grass in the country.
It's all been exciting. It's been pretty exciting since I got home, just a big rush, you know. A lot of people ringing me up and asking me to run Grand Prix and that sort of thing.
And it's those sort of things that might just see him Athens bound come August. Last year's Stall Gift winner must better 10.21 seconds over 100 metres if he's to qualify for Athens, with his campaign to start at the Australian Grand Prix Series in Perth this weekend.
His idol is Patrick Johnson, and probably this Saturday he's going to line up beside him, and I'd say that'd be very exciting for him.
But as far as his coach Tony Fairweather is concerned, it's not if Josh gets the Olympic call-up, it's when.
I know I've booked my ticket, so that's how confident I am. So I know he's going to perform, providing everything goes to plan.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Ten-year-old Quinn Davis from Merriweather knows how it feels to be bullied.
Very bad, and just very scared, didn't want to go to school.
He's not alone. Around 1 in 6 kids cop bullying in some form.
For kids, bullying is a major fear, and it shouldn't be that way.
As a parent, Frank Davis felt pretty helpless. When he tried to do some homework on the topic, he found very little information about it, so he decided to write his own book. The book aims to teach parents and kids a few playground lessons on bullying and sends a very strong message.
That bullying's not acceptable in any way, at any time, in any of the many variable forms.
Do you think schools are doing enough about bullying?
Blatantly, no. I think schools need to be more fair dinkum about it. They need to realise what it does to kids.
One local public school has started to use the book, and Frank hopes other schools will catch on. As a dad, he's just happy his son is better equipped to tackle bullying. Daniela Antilli, NBN News.
virtual camera.
The Blues began day 2 in search of quick wickets as Victoria resumed at none for 19. Grant Lambert's idea of scalps may be too literal, banging one into Matthew Elliott's helmet. Early chances were rare and hard to hold when they did come. Elliott doing some hitting of his own, a drop knee 6, backed up with a two-legged 4. Before Dominic Thornley's pair of hands removed him for 39. Brad Hodge picking up where Elliott left off, but Stuart McGill and Brad Haddon combined to see him off for 29. 2 for 112 at lunch. Arnberger was sent back for seconds just a few overs after the interval. Hussey dined out on McGill as Victoria hunted for first inning points. But when Nash baited Moss on the hook, Haddon reeled in the catch. Lambert trapped Hussey in front for 51. While McGill lured out McDonald as the Bushrangers slumped to 6 for 209 at tea. Victoria's tail eventually stopped wagging at 259.
More than 14,000 fans turned out in Adelaide to watch the two Uniteds go head-to-head. Newcastle wasn't without its chances. Asala Massey's run up the right wing nearly paying off for Greg Owens. While at the other end, former Socceroo Carl Viet tried too hard to get the ball past the keeper. In the second half, Adelaide gave fans a lesson in how to ruin scoring chances. Soon after, Aaron Westervelt had a free kick opportunity and he didn't miss by much. The same could be said for Massey, his strike just wide of the goal. Adelaide pressured Newcastle's defence, Tom Willis the only thing stopping the home team going one up. It was a big night for the goalkeeper, ensuring Newcastle at least came home with 1 point. The same couldn't be said for the Hunter Pirates, whose trip to far north Queensland proved fruitless. The Pirates following up their loss to Townsville by scoring the 4th lowest score ever in modern-day NBL against Cairns. Kevin Brooks was no chance against two defenders, while Brad Davidson from the Taipans took a different tack, the Pirates losing 103 to 60. Colin Robinson, NBN News.
As more people opt for an inner-city lifestyle and the residential developments continue to rise around Newcastle's CBD, it seems there's now demand for a major shopping centre to fill the void.
Over the last few years there's been an additional 3,000 people, permanent residents in the inner-city area. That's a steady growth, and as that occurs the need for grocery shopping facilities will continue to be increasing.
Market Town Shopping Centre, which is owned by Sydney company the Cartier Group, is seizing the opportunities created by the residential boom, planning a major expansion. Interests associated with the owners of Market Town have recently bought the 11,000 square metre site across the road in Steele Street for around $10.5 million. Although the plans are yet to be drawn up, it's believed Market Town will be redeveloped into a centre almost the size of Westfield Katara. Proponents hope it will rival the other major shopping centres, including Charlestown, bringing people back to the city to shop.
I think the CBD needs a bigger centre really to progress, something similar to all the outer lying regions.
Although it's subject to planning approval, the owners are hoping construction will begin next year. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. The owners
Back at training today, Johns wasn't keen to comment on speculation over his future with the switch to rugby union, the latest rumour to grow legs. In his final year on contract with Newcastle, it hasn't taken long for speculation over the world's best player to mount, but football was the furthest thing from his mind at Burleigh Heads yesterday. Surfing in a celebrity event alongside world champions Mark Richards and Rabbit Bartholomew, Johns put in a fair showing on the older style boards too.
I'm a mad trend surfer, so I'm honoured to be probably out in the water with Rabbit and MR.
Fellow Novocastrian Reek Smith won the Open Division at his first attempt on a board crafted by his father. Meanwhile, former Knights player Bill Peden won't take up the second year of his deal with English club the London Broncos. Instead, he signed back with his old club, but it's on the staff as a conditioner.
A court decision on the appeal by Wyong Council against the $5 million payout to Ernest Very isn't due until May. But Mayor Greg Best says whichever way the ruling goes, Council wants to be sure responsibility is sorted out first.
The accident in question occurred on state-owned land, was determined under state laws, and worse still, in the federal arena, the federal government was completely and utterly wanting on the HIH debacle that's put Wyong Shire and its ratepayers in an uninsured position.
Council hopes to collect between 30,000 and 40,000 signatures on a petition to send to both state and federal governments, demanding they help foot the bill should the appeal fail. The state government will also be asked to address the problem of people continuing to jump off the rock where Mr. Very dived headfirst into a sandbar and became a quadriplegic.
We have no final say out there whatsoever as a council. Everything that happens out there happens under state responsibility and state law. We can't even put a fence up. We can't put anything up unless we get state okay.
When the court awarded the payout, it found Council was negligent for not putting up signs to warn of the dangers. Now in nearby car parks, Council has erected general warning signs. But the Mayor says the question is, where does individual responsibility begin and end?
To suggest that you can sign the hazardous points along the coast, anyone who's walked along a beach will know there's rock fishermen, there's snorkelers, there's swimmers, there's surfers, there's bathers. It's a nonsense.
David Gardner, NBN News.
"47-year-old Terry Smith is one of the lucky ones. He has a roof over his head and a warm bed to sleep in tonight at the Salvation Army's hostel for men, while many other homeless people are out on the streets.
Yes, we have had to refuse quite a few, from about the middle of last year, about 50 to 80 per month, and we try to find them alternative accommodation, but it's not always easy.
The Salvation Army says they have to turn away people almost on a nightly basis, and many refugees have resorted to handing out sleeping bags and blankets due to the shortage of beds.
Well, there are cases when we just can't find anywhere else for them to go that we have no alternative but to put them on the outside. Yeah, I mean it's a difficult thing to do and we don't like doing it, but quite often we just have no choice.
And Newcastle City Mission is also struggling to accommodate the region's homeless, with their 46 units constantly full. Emergency accommodation services say the number of homeless people seeking refuge has hit an all-time high in the Hunter. They're now seeking more federal and state government funding in the hope of setting up more hostels.
Our resources are finite, and I think we could probably need more funding, more beds for homeless people. It certainly wouldn't go astray.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's 25 years since the inception of the Condors, the awards growing from humble beginnings to a massive 115 nominations this year. And it was with artistic flair that the nominations were announced.
Best Non-Professional Dramatic Production.
And the nominees are
The Cemetery Club, which I am a member of.
Even Grubble the Goblin and Tick the Imp were roped in to help out. The awards will be held at the Civic Theatre on February 6. Meanwhile, 60 young dancers are working up a sweat this week at the Marie Walton Marn Dance Academy in an intensive summer school. Some of the students have travelled from as far away as Perth, Tasmania and Cairns for the week-long camp. It's the first time the dance school has held the camp. However, it's not expected to be the last if the success of this event is anything to go by. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
The Pirates like to take development seriously, but the club needs talent now and believe Alan McCowan could help them out. An experienced shooter, the Albury-based American hasn't played NBL before, but he has been with the Pirates since Christmas and may yet stay for the rest of the season.
Yeah, we like what we see so far. He's been training with us for the past 2 weeks, and we'll continue that process to continue to let him train and to see how he fits in and gels with the side.
Still considered an import by the NBL though, McCowan must be naturalised before he can be signed with the club as a resident player, and that can't come soon enough.
Yeah, as soon as possible. I mean, it's just like anything. The games don't stop and wait for you, so as the season goes on, we have fewer games left, so we'd like to, hopefully get him out there as soon as possible.
Kevin Brooks won't train until later this week after hurting his neck on the forgettable road trip to North Queensland. It's hoped he'll be available in what will be an unchanged lineup to play Adelaide on Saturday night.
Last week's 0-0 draw with Adelaide didn't help Newcastle's cause, with coaching staff pulling out all stops to help fill its top squad. Robbie Middleby makes his return, however, in what's considered a blow to United's strike power. International duty has kept Ryan Griffiths out, while Greg Owens will see a GP, sidelined after blacking out at training. As United searches for the key to the NSL finals, another door closes this Saturday night with the Maitland Harness Racing Club hosting its last intercity pace final. The $25,000 event is the feature of the week-long carnival, with locals warming up last night. Although regular meetings will continue until the financial year concludes, under a recent review by the state's Harness Racing Authority, Maitland will become a fully funded training facility with Newcastle to absorb its race meetings as of the 1st of July.
It won't be too long before this vacant space and mall alleyways are transformed into bustling market stalls. Today, a lease was signed between Council and Market Street Proprietary Limited to seal the deal.
It means that the markets will go ahead. All the approvals are in place, and we've achieved those some time ago. But the lessee, the company that's going to run the markets, has now signed the lease, so they're officially and permanently dedicated to that site.
The company running the markets also operates the Rocks and Fox Studio markets in Sydney.
The actual construction work is not great, so that can be done fairly smartly, and we'll see them operating, and as we do, it'll generate more people back into the mall.
Lord Mayor John Tate says the new markets do not spell the end of the honeysuckle markets, and he believes they can coexist.
One will complement the other, and we took that into consideration quite some years ago.
Council also says problems with disabled access have been ironed out with disabled groups, and the markets will fully comply with all federal legislation. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Giving the Energy Australia Stadium pitch his own inspection, James Dunning upstaged his dad Matt this afternoon. But it's the 25-year-old forward who must stand out when the much-anticipated trial match against the Waikato Chiefs rolls into Newcastle.
We've got 32 players in the squad at the moment. They're all vying for 15 run-on spots and 7 spots on the bench, so that's what these trial games are about.
Former Brumby turned Waratah Dan Vickerman knows just how important these Super 12 trial games can be. This his first appearance for New South Wales after 3 years in the ACT.
There's a lot of competition for the second row this year, so obviously got to do well in the trial match up here in a few weeks' time.
Despite the ongoing renovations, like last year, match organisers are expecting 12,500 spectators at the January 30 match, which will be played over 4 30-minute quarters. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
It took more than an hour to release the pair from the wreckage of the two-vehicle crash near the Tea Gardens turn-off. The 15-year-old boy, who was a passenger in one car, suffered abdominal injuries, while the 79-year-old Sydney man driving the other vehicle needed treatment for chest injuries. Both are reported to be in a stable condition in John Hunter Hospital.
Mission Australia has begun research into the link between tenancy blacklists and the number of homeless in Newcastle. With rental affordability in the Hunter expected to worsen, it's hoped the findings will lead to a long-term solution.
What we want to find out is how accurate and how current the tenancy databases are. Of course, every single landlord has the right to choose who becomes their tenant, but what we want to make sure is that is there a better way of having a system which protects the landlords but also protects tenants?
Once blacklisted, there is virtually no chance of being removed from the database, and accommodation options become limited due to a lack of available public housing.
And it's really important that the private market is there because they provide a lot of housing for people who might be disadvantaged.
Tenancy blacklists will guide property owners, helping them make an informed decision on a suitable tenant.
But when you've got 60 people applying for a tenancy and somebody's on a tenancy list, even if they're not there for a good reason, you're probably going to take somebody who's not on the list.
Christy Carter, NBN News. Hunter Valley Sheepskin Company Mortels may have originally named the popular Ugg boot, but it's now in a fight with US company Deckers Outdoor Corporation, which has registered the word Ugg as a trademark. As Australia and the US negotiate a free trade agreement, the move is seen as anything but neighbourly.
The American company is stifling competition within Australia for the use of the term Ugg in any description, in any way, in any spelling form, in any derivative. You can't use Ugg, you can't call them smug, you can't call them ugly boots, and you can't even say these are not Ugg boots.
The battle is expected to have an impact on the sheepskin industry, with the owner of the Ugg brand understood to be having their boots made in China. And while for now sheepskin production is still happening at the Mortel Sheepskin Factory at Rutherford, some Australian companies have already been forced to close their doors due to US competition, which is set to have a major impact on the New South Wales sheepskin industry.
We use thousands upon thousands of sheepskins in our own business here in the Hunter, and we are very small. Across an industry, it's potentially millions of dollars worth of impact, negative impact.
But Mortels is not going down without a fight to protect its Aussie icon.
We would urge anybody who has information on the early origins of the Ugg boot to come forward.
Christy Carter, NBN News. For the last 20 years, refugees like this Sudanese family have been helped by the Migrant Resource Centre. The service helps people make a fresh start to life in the Hunter. Violetta Walsh heads up the centre and today was named Newcastle Citizen of the Year. She's also a refugee. She fled Lithuania as a child and believes Newcastle has always embraced cultural diversity.
Newcastle has always had a good record. We've had waves and waves of people. We've got over 50 ethnic groups, over 70 distinct languages. The waves have been coming, and what
the friendship is reciprocated by people.
19-year-old Peter McDonald was named Young Citizen of 2004, while the ABC Music Awards was named Community Event of the Year. And special guest at the Australia Day luncheon certainly knew how to work the crowd. Marsha Hines also encouraged peace, inspiring everyone with her amazing vocal range. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
It's not the most common of training techniques ahead of a rugby league tournament, but Kurt Gidley hit the indoor cricket pitch on World Sevens Eve. It wasn't the only thing getting collected, but it's the captaincy that's really bowled over the young back.
No, it's a bit of a surprise, but yeah, I'm happy to lead. It's only a pretty young team, so it should be good fun.
Enjoying just a limited preparation, the squad features many new faces, but some that could fast become well known.
I think George Calmont and probably Trent Sorkel, a couple of the quieter guys, but they're both very quick and pretty elusive.
The Waratahs team to play Waikato next week in Super 12 Rugby's pre-season tournament match at Newcastle couldn't be much stronger. Several World Cup representatives have been included in the squad. In cricket, Newcastle club side Hamilton Wickham is looking for its second Country Cup crown in 3 years when it hosts Central Coast team Narara, Wyoming on Monday at the No. 1 Sports Ground. And Lake Macquarie's Luke Johnson is praying for strong winds this weekend for the state wave sailing round at Nobby's Beach.
Yeah, I know the reef here and know where to sail and stuff. I think I'll have a bit of an advantage over the other sails, yeah.
Fresh from her latest pilgrimage to Tamworth, Joy McKean spent a morning attending civic ceremonies and signing books in what was a homecoming of sorts.
I was born here and I spent the first 2 years of my life living at Doyle's Creek. Slim and I often stay in Singleton on our way back from the awards.
At Maitland, what better way to mark this very special day than with a cup of tea and one very big Lamington, 8 metres by 4 to be exact, taking in 140 kilos of sponge mix. While the band played on, some just didn't know what all the fuss was about. Others did what Aussies do best by having a go. But it was this humble Hills hoist that proved a popular option, giving many a platform to express their patriotism, where some things are better left unsaid. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
For more than 15 years, Joy Pegg has raised vital funds for cystic fibrosis. Today, she's been recognised for her tireless efforts with an Order of Australia medal.
I'm very honoured to have met so many amazing people over the years. We've raised in the vicinity of $200,000, which has funded many things at the John Hunter Hospital in early days.
Also on the honours list, Dr Alan Patterson, now a member of the Order of Australia. He was the first employee of the Hunter Valley Research Foundation in 1956 and Director General of TAFE New South Wales during the 80s.
And I'm very proud of having made a contribution to the work of TAFE. They were very difficult years. They were years of great expansion.
And John Monteith has received an OAM for his service to the surveying profession and work with various Newcastle community groups. The humble 81-year-old celebrated with his proud family over lunch today.
Well, they're feeling very excited about it, you know. Your grandfather and their father and grandfather with this award, and the wife's very pleased, and of course she's helped and contributed a lot.
And Val Ashbourne and Helen Hall have also made the honours list, both receiving Order of Australia medals. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. It's prime harbourfront real estate stretching from Civic Station to Newcastle Railway Station and already identified by the Carr government as perfect for residential development. But the Lord Mayor is adamant that developers won't get their hands on this public land.
The railway corridor will stay as a transport corridor and there will be no buildings. While I'm Lord Mayor, there will be no buildings on that railway corridor.
The Lower Hunter Transport Working Group, which Councillor Tate is a member of, doesn't support development along the eastern end of the railway corridor. But state government concept drawings issued with the working group's report have shown otherwise. Dark brown shaded areas depicting future private development. A red-faced mayor left to set the record straight.
I'm very concerned that there has been an interpretation that buildings could be built on the corridor. So I've taken this action by writing to the Premier, by writing to the Minister of Transport and making it clear that I personally do not agree with buildings being built in that location.
Meanwhile, Council will tonight vote on an 11-storey tower block planned for the former ice skating rink site on Merriweather Street. Although Council planning staff have recommended the development be approved, the Lord Mayor is opposed.
I'm concerned about the height of that building. It exceeds the height limits that's set down by Council.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
With Patrick Johnson still to make his start on the Australian Grand Prix Series this year, most eyes are on Matt Shirvington. But racing next to him at Brisbane in just his second ever track meet over the weekend was Joshua Ross, and he was turning heads as well. Making the switch to track running, this one-time grass specialist is learning fast. Missing the start, Ross still managed second behind Shirvington in a time of 10.45 seconds. He now heads to Canberra with a view to breaking 10.21, the Olympic Games qualifying time. After finishing runner-up by one stroke at the Lake Macquarie Amateur yesterday, James Nitties has opted to rest up after being plagued by a back problem. Neither he nor Belmont's Nick Flanagan will compete in the State Amateur Championship this week, with the latter to take on the professionals at the Heineken Classic in Melbourne. And Newcastle's Trudy Musgrave is through to the quarterfinals of the mixed doubles at the Australian Open. She's now up against the fourth seeds, which is headed by Martina Navratilova. Able to walk freely with his wife Danielle today, Ben Darwin calls himself the luckiest man in the world. During the World Cup, he was literally a mere fraction away from snapping his spinal cord. Now recovered, it has forced Darwin into retirement at age 26. But far from resting up, it's a return to studies at Newcastle University and a life as a Novocastrian.
I love the town. I get a bit sick of Sydney, and one of the things I've been travelling now on the road for the last 7 years, and I love coming up here and just really happy to settle down here. It's a great place to have kids.
Having spent more than enough time in both hospital and in a neck brace of late, the former wildfire won't be lost to the sport, with the Brumbies and several local clubs hoping to secure his services in coaching roles.
The main thing I want to do is, like I said, help the comp, help the standard and help young guys coming through.
As for creating his own little team...
Apparently it's in the press I've got a son, but as far as I know I don't have any anywhere, and my wife was pretty surprised about that.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.